Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and it's time I look at the Child's Play remake released in 2019. Now, here's the thing. I have complicated feelings towards this movie and how it was made, and it wouldn't be sincere of me if I didn't address them in this video. So just buddy bear with me for a few minutes, alright? We'll be counting the kills soon enough. When I started Dead Meat back in 2017, every major franchise that I was planning to cover had some kind of remake or reboot. Jason, Michael, Freddy, Leatherface, the little shit Leprechaun, all of them had their timelines discontinued and restarted. Hell, even Ghostface kinda had a splintering with that MTV series. But not Chucky. Over the course of nearly 3 decades, Chucky's story continued uninterrupted through various highs and lows in quality and constant experimentation with tone and style. Guiding this continuity was Don Mancini and producer David Kirshner. Mancini wrote or co-wrote every single installment of the franchise, and eventually took over directing duties for himself. Sure, his first directorial effort, Seed of Chucky, is widely regarded as the worst of the series, but Mancini never faltered in his devotion to the franchise, and he brought it back very strongly in my opinion, with the more mature and gothic, and sadly straight-to-video, Curse and Cult of Chucky. I know that some people think Mancini ruined the series with stuff like Seed, but there wouldn't be a Chucky series without him. Yes, the original screenplay was polished and rewritten by John Lafia and the film's director Tom Holland. No, not that Tom Holland. And Holland, who had a sort of falling out with Mancini and Kirshner, gave this remake the thumbs up while it was being made. But Holland's involvement, and the involvement of distributor MGM, ended after the first movie. It was Mancini and Kirshner who kept the killer doll going, and I would argue that without all the sequels, Chucky wouldn't be the cultural icon he is today. You don't wind up in Ready Player One just because of a single successful film, unless, you know, you're The Shining. Although Universal helped make most of the Chucky sequels, MGM retained the rights to the original film, which is why they were legally allowed to create this remake. But to me, they're just cashing in on the iconic image of Chucky that was cultivated by Mancini all these years. Feels kinda like a cash grab. And note that this criticism is directed towards the studio MGM, not the cast and crew, who obviously cared about the movie they were making and who did a solid job. But whereas MGM has been hands-off since 1988, the Chucky series has always been Don Mancini's baby. Besides his work on Hannibal and Channel Zero, his entire creative career has been centered on the killer doll, and his passion and loyalty to the series is reflected in how many people behind and in front of the camera have stuck with him the whole way through. Brad Dourif and Jennifer Tilly are friggin' Oscar-nominated actors, but they love Mancini and the Chucky series so much, they've never left its side. And it's worth noting, have both been vocally against the remake being made. And I know, a remake doesn't erase the originals and they'll always be there to watch. But Cult of Chucky ended on a cliffhanger, and Mancini and everyone else involved wants to continue that story, the same story that's been going for 30 years now, in a Child's Play TV series they're developing for Sci-Fi. And I do think the existence of a different parallel Chucky might confuse or deter people from watching Mancini's show. It just bothers me that even though Mancini didn't want this movie to be made, the studio went ahead and did it anyway just because they legally owned the rights. It's not like Chucky was a dormant series like all the other horror franchises that got rebooted, and the latest movies weren't like the later Hellraiser or Children of the Corn sequels, where something lazy was churned out just to retain the rights. Even if you don't like what Cult did, you can't deny that Mancini was definitely trying to do something with it. It's important to point out that this remake's director, Lars Klevberg, and seemingly everyone else involved with the film have never said anything negative towards Mancini. In fact, Mancini was even offered an executive producer credit on this movie, but since it wouldn't include any creative input, and since he was still working on his own Chucky series, he turned it down.
It was hard not to feel like I was being patronized.
Yeah. They weren't asking for your creative involvement.
Yeah,
they
just wanted our imprimatur of, approval, which I strenuously deny them.
I really wish MGM had just made a different movie. This remake has enough changes from the original that it could function as its own separate thing.
We really wanted to have something new to bring to it, something relevant to today's audiences.
They definitely did that, with their movie addressing a fear of technology and surveillance gone wrong. That's great, but why did it have to be a Child's Play movie? Literally the only reason is money. Without that title and the look of the Chucky doll that Mancini helped Kevin Yeager design, the film wouldn't have made nearly as much money. God forbid. Throughout the original Chucky series, Don Mancini tried new things. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they were awful, but sometimes they were great. I fucking love how much he experimented, even when I didn't like the outcome. And I can't stand it when I hear people say that they're glad a new Chucky is being made despite his opposition because they didn't like what he did with the series. Chucky is his creation. Just because we're fans doesn't mean we're entitled to have Chucky movies made the way we want them to be made. We didn't create that little bastard killer doll, Don Mancini did. And for 30 years, he's been loyal to the character and all the cast and crew who have helped him along the way. I know MGM is within their legal rights to make this remake, but its creation reflects a different value system than I'd prefer to see in the world. One that doesn't respect an artist who's always stayed devoted to, experimental with, and passionate towards their life's work. I just wish we cared about that a little more. That's about all I have to say about this. Sorry it took so long, but again, I wouldn't feel right not addressing it. And with that out of the way, I promise to cover this remake on its own merits and treat it like any other movie on the kill count. If you really want to know, I'd personally rank it below Cult and Curse, but above Bride, Seed, and 3. And it's okay if you disagree with that. People have different opinions, alright? With that, I'm done talking about the original series. The Child's Play remake reimagines Chucky as a home AI system, basically an Alexa in physical form. He's no longer a good guy doll, but instead a buddy doll. And although he still wants to be friends to the end, he's also down to help you with work, both home and yard. Andy Barclay has been aged up, now more in line with the adolescence of Stranger Things and It, while Karen Barclay has been ever so slightly aged down, and is now played by Aubrey Plaza, which, when I realized her age actually made sense for this role, well boy did I feel old. Rounding out the human cast is Brian Tyree Henry as Detective Mike Norris, and all three of these actors do a great job being funny and relatable. Their performances are definitely a highlight. In fact, I think their acting, and Bear McCreary's awesome score, actually masks some of the weaker points of the movie, which can sometimes feel like it has more style than substance. I think it's too hip by half, with a few too many sitcom-like scenes and side characters, and as I examined it more closely with repeat viewings, I noticed a lot of character and story decisions that simply don't make a lot of sense. Kind of feels like the screenplay was forcing certain things to happen just to hit some predetermined story beats. But I can understand people enjoying this movie. Not only is it well-paced and stays entertaining the whole way through, it's got Mark frickin' Hamill as the new voice of Chucky.
Hi. Are you my best buddy?
There aren't too many people who could rival Brad Dourif's voice work for the character, but I've gotta say that Hamill's performance feels pretty pitch perfect. Although, sorry, note from editor Zoran here, he insists that I mention that Hamill's voice for Chucky is the same as a, Brigsby Bear, whatever the fuck that is.
Remember, prophecy is meaningless. Trust only your familial unit. And please, discard leftover food rations in the yellow bin, not the red one.
Brigsby, Chucky, Luke, I don't give a damn about his name, I care about his kills, so let's get to him.